My fellow Ambazonians, this is Dr. Choyeba once more. I've just read a posting from a certain Julius Fondong, who happens to either be associated with UN or a kind of a scholarly position in some institution. I am responding to some of his claims on the question of genocide and on the question of lockdowns. Let me start with the lockdown. I know that they like to cherry pick some of the postings from political adventurers to establish it as the baseline Amazonian argument that explains the rationale for certain what we call actions that we impose on the ground. The lockdown that has been called from the 9th to the 23rd has nothing to do with the United Nations. It has nothing to do with the General Assembly. Absolutely no connection. Now, let me explain it in simple terms so that everyone will understand. In this war of liberation, we have combined military actions, sovereignty projects, resistance actions like boycotts, lockdowns, sabotage missions in terms of economic sabotage, and other actions like anti-election actions, which is generally situated under the anti-legitimization actions. All liberation struggles have embraced this multitude of actions to challenge the authority of the enemy, undermine its policies and actions, to delegitimize their political authority, which is important in their international claim for power over a sovereign people. So it is not new. We are not creating new strategies. These are all strategies that have been used. Martin Luther King used boycotts, either bus boycott or actions in buses like Rosa Parks did to refuse to sit in front, to sit behind the bus. And people might have asked, oh, why not just sit behind the bus? It takes you to the same destination, right? Sometimes dignity matters. You know, we find a few kids in the United States blacks were denied the right to go into certain schools. People would ask, oh yeah, why must you mingle in their own schools? You know, why not just create your own schools and get along? Why endanger the lives of children to be policed in predominantly white schools where you had 3 blacks in the United States? That would have been the argument being made by some Ambazonians today. Because the easy way out is the most convenient for most Ambazonians, or these loud weaver birds. Now, I give these examples for you people to know. In Soweto, you had a Soweto uprising of students who stood up. We have in certain countries, prisoners have been able to rise up in jail. Any of you who've read the Birmingham jail letter from Martin Luther King Jr., where he was attacked by fellow preacher men and women for taking actions that endanger the lives of people. And he responded, and I recommend that most of you should read that letter. You know, and he told them what endangers the lives of people are not the counter actions that people take, you know, are the actions that necessitate those counter actions. Institutionalized segregation, you know, using water cannons on peaceful protesters, turning men into boys, using, you know, dogs on blacks. I also recommend you to read the last letter from Patrice Lumumba to his wife. I understand what it means, even at the point where you're dying, to still be resilient. When most would say, why didn't you just succumb so you should leave? The world today is not what it is because of cowardice. If it was left to Chamberlain Czechoslovakia would have been sold, Poland, everywhere would have been sold to appease Hitler. And you will never appease bullies. You will never appease tyrants. You give the right hand, they will ask the left. How you deal with bullies is to take them head on, is to challenge them, block by block, policy by policy. That's how you deal with bullies. For 61 years, we've thought you could appease Cameroon, you can appease Biya. Oh, let's just take it. Oh, let's just go for municipal elections. They gave you a slap on the face with appointing government delegates. Oh, let's fight for the GCE board. They gave it to you and appointed their own people. Let's fight for university. All administrators became CPDM cohorts. We begged even for federalism, wrote constitutional proposals and sent to them. They transformed debates into large and text debates. A mockery on an entire people. And yet when students rise up from the University of Boya, they send Manawa Bay to show force, who is in charge. Or we should continue to, pussycat behind these people, appease their bullying just because we want to leave. We keep postponing this fight to the next generation just because we want to survive. A few of us with the opportunity escaped the territory and became big men and they call us bush fallers. You go in down there and you're Lord of the Rings. You live in countries where people bled, where you find cemeteries of hundreds of thousands of people who fought for something, stood for something, died for something. We simply just want to integrate into anything. What a people. What happened to our dignity? What happens to our manhood and womanhood? And so let me go back to the subject matter. He says, the United Nations will not. We didn't call for lockdown against or to draw the attention of the United Nations. There were 3 strategies that we used to draw the attention of the international community, and we've largely succeeded. Self-defense, internationalization that mobilized Amazonians at the international community to draw their attention to our situation. Targeted diplomacy that is going to talk to policymakers, advocacy groups, advocates for peace and justice, international non-governmental organizations, and non-governmental organizations that deal with issues of crisis. We have largely succeeded. The evidence is there. And all of these scholars are talking now because, we did something. Review literatures in conflict, review literature in nation building, peace building, conflict resolutions, wars. Amazonia features prominently because of what we have done. Not reviewing history, because of what we have done. Amazonians go anywhere today now, you feel you have some sense of pride just because you stood up. And that's far more powerful than anything anybody can give you. Far more powerful than somebody dropping $1 million into your account. Walking like a human being, shoulders high, being able to be proud of your identity, yourself, where you come from, and not live your entire life, subterranean, being ashamed of who you are, being ashamed of your language, being ashamed to wear with pride and honor your own national regalia, being afraid to tell somebody where you come from. And that's what we have won. And some people want to make us feel like, this thing is simply about the end game. No, it's a process. Every battle of it, dignity for our people, being able to make the enemy become confused. We've confused these people. So we didn't call for lockdown because we want to bring in the... No, we think distinction is critical for separation. Distinction is critical. It might look naive, it might look stupid, but it matters. Challenging the authority of the enemy is critical in who is in charge. And that's what sometimes these lockdowns do. We don't start schools in September anymore. We are not answerable to them anymore. Boya does not respond to Yaoundé anymore. That's the point. Every year between June and August, they don't sleep because they have to grapple with the fact that they are not in charge. Every Saturday and Sunday, they don't sleep because they know Who is in charge will be determined on Monday. That's power, my people. And you must exercise it. If you have your neighbor who has taken over your house and turned everybody into a plantation worker, and you put a day that nobody is going out, on that day they know you are in action. So to take some postings on some people be claiming that that's the reason for our lockdowns, no. We don't want the intoxication called education being provided by Cameroon. We want skill education. We want education that turns us into assets. And if we have to give up some 2 weeks away from Cameroon start date, good and fine. We have made it absolutely clear. There are more than 30 countries where schools begin in January and February. There are countries where they begin effectively in October. There are certain countries where from August to September is what they call the pre-semester kind of stuff. And real schools begin in October. I studied in the UK, and sometimes that's what happens. We are not reinventing the wheel, my people. So our lockdown in September is to frustrate anything. And this is more important. Sometimes we may not need to lock down. Sometimes we know, whether in issues of taxi drivers, in issues of bike riders, we know sometimes we have said let our people, go about their activities or simply stay home. The enemy has recruited taxi drivers, recruited bike riders, bought bikes and given to people to undermine our authority and our strategy. We know the enemy has flooded our territories when we have banned their own schools. They've done everything to risk children's lives. So that when Amazonian forces take action, they say, oh, we are attacking students, we are attacking schools. So to prevent these kinds of provocation, we rather stay home. Don't risk your child's life. Because in the event that they are protecting the schools, or we want to attack them and somebody is caught in crossfire, you'll be screaming out there. Yesterday morning, they break into the new church primary school and use it as a temporal base because they want to impose an archaic, intoxicating form of education against in Amazonia. So to write some nonsense and claim we making lockdown to bring the United Nations, no. We didn't carry up arms to fight this regime because the United Nations had not been created. We have argued that for the past 60-something years, the United Nations have failed us. The international community has failed us. And like all other people, we'll have to face the brutality of the enemy. And that's what we are doing. If our actions has drawn their attention and then they want to engage in conflict resolutions and stuff, fine. We will talk and fight. The second point he makes is, to argue, and that's a scholar, to argue that our claim of genocide is undermined by the fact that our people are taking refuge in Cameroon is something I've never heard. Genocide is a legal terminology. It's not a kind of political spin subject to your own interpretation. It's a legal concept. And then he floats around numbers. Genocide is also not about numbers. There are crises where you have hundreds of thousands of people killed. It's not been determined as genocide. But there are others where maybe just 10,000 people are killed and it's genocide. So all these this kind of argument from people who appear to be scholars is deceptive. The Amazonian case is not going to be the first case. There are thousands of Palestinians who are in Israel. Palestinian Israeli Arabs. The case for genocide in Amazonia is about what the 1948 convention defines: an attack on a people because of their ethnicity, because of their they belong to a particular national group, and we belong to a particular national group called Amazonia. And we have proven, as the convention says, to eliminate a people partially or fully for belonging to that national group. What do you constitute this systematic massacre of young Amazonian adults? It is not only about the killing, it's about the people who form the next generation of a productive society. They are being eliminated. That's a precursor to stopping the growth of that particular national group. If you attack young males continuously, who will be the next husbands? So, or you think that it's about wiping the entire Amazonian nation? What do you think by imposing conditions that lead to their partial destruction, like burning down thousands of villages? What do you call that? It doesn't fit within the definition of the 1948 convention. When a colonial deal acts on almost 16 villages in Manu to evacuate, what do you call that? And then went ahead to burn down those villages and attack those people. Are they not imposing conditions that may lead to their partial or full destruction? Where in the Genocide Convention do you read about where the victims take refuge as being determinant to whether genocide is occurring or not? Go and read it and tell me. Go read Bogesera versus the ICTTR. Go read Kajik versus the ICTY. And see how even 1948 is narrowed down to specific issues that are still seen as constituting genocide. What do you think when we argue that they sterilize people to prevent the birth into that national group? Is that not genocide? Read different cases under the ICCC, under the ICC. Go to the ICTY. Go and read those of former Rwanda. Read specific cases. And then come and tell us that what these guys are doing in Amazonia is not genocide. Only the idea of imposing conditions that may lead to the partial or full destruction of the people. You're telling us about where Amazonians settle, as though we are the first people who have settled in the land of those who are victimizing us. Or you determine that because we want independence, yeah, by the fact that we are not killing Cameroonians in Amazonia will also mean that we don't want independence from Cameroon. It means we like them. What do you think is the effect of more than 60 years of occupation? That there has not been Amazonian and Cameroonians who have gotten married? Or even if we love Cameroon so badly, we deny us the right to our own nation? And so why are the Scots running away from the English? Or you think Quebecers hate Canadians so badly that, that's the only reason they want independence? My man, we are dummies. Our country is under attack. Our people are being bludgeoned. Our villages are being razed down. Our people are drowning. They will hang even on a snake just to survive. And so don't poke your finger into our eyes with some kind of reductionist kind of ideas. We don't need it. It's not going to stop us. All your floating arguments, you can propagate those arguments on CNN. We have made a decision. Boya no longer answers to Yaoundé. Get me right.